Greetings and welcome to the ROI Clear podcast. My name is Ray Hightower, and today we are fortunate to have as our guest Mr. Blake Alpen. Blake Alpen is founder of Hearst Capital. He's going to tell us about that. He's going to tell us about Australia and Texas and a few things in between. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our guest, Mr. Blake Alpen. Welcome, Blake.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, appreciate you having me on and appreciate being here. And yeah, looking forward to the conversation we're going to have today.
Yes, grateful to have you here. Most grateful to have you here. And you have something in your bio, or perhaps it's on your LinkedIn profile, where you describe yourself as a determined pathfinder. So to kick things off, normally we ask for an elevator pitch, but we're going to do something a little bit different with you. When did you realize that you were a determined pathfinder?
Yeah, I suppose a few years back anyway, I suppose when I decided that real estate was going to be the thing that I focused on the most and, that I had to do whatever it took to do that, I suppose the path just sort of lit up for me, right? And it didn't matter to me what was in my way or any barriers that, maybe some people would consider them as barriers, but it was just another sort of step on the stone for me. So I suppose getting more jobs, moving across the other side of the country to pursue work as well. And then at the end of the day, leaving Australia to pursue syndication. So yeah, whatever it takes to get the result. That's what the goal is. And that's what my aim is.
I admire that. Whatever it takes to get the result, that is that reflects determination and focus. And so let's go back a little bit. You're born and raised in Australia. You studied mining engineering in Australia. Tell us about that. When did you decide to study mining engineering? And tell us, maybe you can tell us some stories about that experience.
Yeah, well, I was in the mines as an engineer, but at university I did a bachelor's in mechanical engineering and did that for a few years, and essentially got into that because just at a young age I liked motorbikes. So I thought I want to work on mechanical things. So that was my young brain at 14, 15. I always knew I wanted to be an engineer. So, and that was why I liked motorbikes. But yeah, essentially I went to university like so many people do and got a job, and the job's nothing like what you thought it was going to be, especially in engineering, I suppose, because there's so many different facets and different ways that even one mechanical engineer can be an engineer. So I ended up running mechanical projects and ended up running many different projects, civil and structural, and I pretty much touched on every sort of engineering you could do. And yeah, for 8 years of project management experience, and I've ran about $150 million worth of CapEx projects in that time with teams of 5 to 50 people. And yeah, I suppose it's really built on what I would hope to see and would like to think that will set me up for success for asset management when it comes to syndications in real estate. So I'm hoping it's a transferable skill, and I believe it definitely is.
I think it is a transferable skill. If you're managing $150 million worth of assets and you have 5 or so people that are reporting to you to get those projects done, those are key fundamental skills that you need as an asset manager. So certainly you've been set up for success there. And you know what, Blake, in listening to you, I'm reminded of something that Steve Jobs said: we cannot connect the dots in advance, but when we look backwards, we can connect the dots. You, as a syndicator, are looking backwards at your experience as a mechanical engineer in the mines, and even prior to that, looking to your passion for motorbikes as a 14 or 15-year-old kid. There's a direct correspondence there. I bet there's going to be something from your experience, from your enthusiasm as a teenager who's crazy about motorbikes. I think something from that experience is going to serve you well as an asset manager as well.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that has a driving passion for anything, I've always seen that they do really well at what they do, right? And every time I have a phone call with someone when I was running projects and I needed something done, and I just ring someone, a contractor or something like that, and they've just got that passion about them that they're so excited about it. You always want to work with them, right? You're always like, I need
Mm.
to be around this person. Like, they've got drive and they want to get things done, and I want to get things done. So yeah, working
You want to
together on.
be you want to be around others who have drive and want to get things done.
Exactly right. Yeah. I pretty much only would have people, they only get one chance on my projects too, because we're in the middle of the desert, right? So if you're not willing to do whatever it takes to get it done, you're in the middle of the desert. We have to do that, right? So essentially all my teams were just made up of people that were willing to get it done and do whatever it takes to get the job done in a short time periods, because we were running projects where you might only have 4 days to completely rip a component out and put it back
Mhm.
in brand new on a 60-year-old that back up. It's not going to. So yeah, having that willpower to know that things aren't going to go well, and to be able to put your best foot forward even in high uncertain times and strenuous situations is sort of the teams I like to build.
Dealing with uncertainty in strenuous situations.
Yep. Yep.
Excellent. What were you mining for? You mentioned you were in the desert, you were in Australia. What was it that you were mining for?
My first job was manganese. My second job was iron ore. My last job, my third job was gold. So gold was my last job.
All right, all right. And it's interesting when you're mining, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but essentially you're digging through a whole bunch of stuff that you don't want in order to get to the substance that you do want.
Yep. Yeah, exactly right. And obviously each sort of process is different, and each place that you dig has, higher quantities of gold or higher quantities of iron ore than other places. But yeah, I suppose when you dig up gold, sometimes you only get a couple ounces of gold per cube. So it's a lot of digging for not much sort of reward. But that's why you have big machines and you just dig a lot, right? So
And you automate as much as you can so you can get through the that which you discard to get to what you really want.
yeah, exactly right. And even the technology these days, there's actually a cool little room on the gold mine. And when I first walked into it, it's like if you've ever seen kids play PlayStation and stuff, they've got like the chair and they've got the little remote, like the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
They've got that with the screens. So they're
Mm-hmm.
driving machines on top of the surface underground. And it's pretty crazy. So a lot of the trucks can be driven from above the ground now, and even the trains are driven from a control center in a
Mm-hmm.
city. Yeah, everything these days is being automated. It's pretty crazy.
So it's all automated and remote, almost like flying drones or something like that.
Exactly right. Yeah, it can cause some trouble sometimes, but yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Got it. Got it. Now, tell us a little bit about your thought process there. And at one point you mentioned in one of your bios somewhere, you mentioned that you were working 3 jobs and going multiple days without sleep and really working very hard. Take us through that part of your journey.
Yeah, I suppose that was the start. That was when just thought to myself, I got made redundant from one of my jobs, and I thought to myself, I'm very reliant on just that one job, aren't I? And I don't have much to show for what I was doing at that job for, the few years that I was there. I was there for 3 years, and I sort of said, I don't have a house to show for it. I don't have anything. And I was making good money, right? So that was sort of the awakening for me to go, you really need to put some focus on this and be more reliant on yourself and not a job, and utilize that. So yeah, I ended up getting 3 jobs: a day shift job, a night shift job, and then a weekend job.
Mm,
So the only rest I would really have during the week would be if I arrived at one of my other jobs 20 minutes early. I'd get a little nap in front of my other job, and then yeah, walk in with red eyes and hadn't slept, and bosses would be looking at me like, "What's this guy up to?" But yeah, just pure no sleep, and it's crazy that you can do those things when you set your mind to it. Because thinking back, if I wanted to do it now, it'd probably be a hard task, right? But
mm.
in the time, I just told myself that's what you have to do. You have no other option. Like, this is the only way you're going to make more money. You're going to save more money, and you're going to save 95% of this. but in the same breath, like you have to make the most money you can make. So that's why I got the 3 jobs. And yeah, the most that I've worked is 3 days straight. I haven't done 4 days straight, but 3 days is pretty common. I've done 3 days a fair few times, that's for sure. More times I can count on my hands. But yeah, it was one morning at about 3 a.m. when I hadn't slept for 3 days, and my delusional brain came up with a not so delusional thought that maybe you're doing something a little wrong here, because nobody else is doing this and they're still getting, people can still get in front. So what have you got to learn? What have you got to do to be in that same position? Because not everyone's working 3 jobs, losing sleep for 3 days. So you've got to learn something here. You've got to change your method and find a new way. So that was a bit of a shift for me after 3 days straight and 3 a.m.
3 a.m. It's
Yeah.
interesting that this revelation came to you during a period when you thought you were a little bit delusional, but I think looking back, it seems that the thought was very much on point.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's what sort of made me change my focus and think I'm definitely gonna, because at that point I just thought I was gonna save money and I didn't really know what I was gonna do with it. But at 3 a.m. I realized if I lose all these jobs, I start losing the money. So I need to be making money in my sleep, as they say, which I hadn't been sleeping. So that's what I was, looking to do, which made me really start focusing on real estate. And at the start, I didn't know what I was going to do and how to go about it. But I just said, I'm going to focus on real estate. And at the start, maybe I'm going to make some mistakes. At the end of the day, it's my money. I'm willing to take that risk because the upside is worth the downside. And in my mind, the downside of investing in a property like a single family real estate deal in a metro area over 10 years or 20 years, it's going to go up. Even though it fluctuates. Essentially in Australia as well, our main cities just keep going up because we don't have too many. It's not like the US where there's so many different metros and so many different variables in play. Australia is a nice, easy place to know where to invest, in my opinion. So yeah, the risk was a lot lower, in my opinion, for me. I didn't see it as a risk. I just saw it as a bunch of opportunity if I start to invest now. So yeah.
You spotted a path where others saw risk, you saw a path, and this is probably part of your origin story as a determined pathfinder.
Yeah, I'd like to think, I like how you circled back to that. That actually works well. I didn't even think about it in that way, but yeah, exactly right. I just feel that, just there's always going to be risk in something that you do. It's just about understanding that risk, right? And having that risk tolerance about you. Obviously, don't go into things too blindly. I went into my first deal very blind and sort of trusted somebody else to, you should have a property in this area and it's a growing area, and trusted them. And it turned out not to be the case. It turned out to be a very upcoming area, so much upcoming that it took many, many years for it to up and come, but it finally got there. But that first, I can call it a mistake, I suppose. But in reality, it's not a mistake. In the time, it felt a bit difficult because I had to put money into the property every month to pay the mortgage, and I couldn't rent it out for a while. But it's all just learnings for me. Like, well, I don't want this on my next property, do I? So what do I have to do to better myself? So yeah, may have been mistakes, but I see it as great learnings, and it's set me up for my next property was the best one I've ever bought, and then my third property was the best one I've ever bought again. So you can only improve if you focus on how to improve, I think.
Fascinating. So what I take away from that is beyond your degree in mechanical engineering, you also have a degree from the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go through that right at the start. Like if someone hasn't made a mistake in their journey, they maybe haven't done too much, or maybe they've had some great coaching or guidance along the way. But sometimes at the start you just don't have that guidance, right? And you maybe don't know the right path, but you know that you've got to take one of the paths. So at the end of the day, as long as you're walking along that path and towards something that is positive in the end, which real estate is, doesn't matter which path you lead in real estate. I think a lot of them do end up coming to a place of, you know, prosperity. And yeah, a lot of people gain success through real estate, right? So just to
Yes.
start and learning along the way is the best way to do it.
So there's a gap here that I want to explore, and then I want to move beyond this part. Your very first deal, you had the realization after working 3 days straight. You said there was a delusion, but actually you came up with a brilliant idea that you wanted to do something else. Take us from that delusional period and that moment of clarity to your first deal. When did you decide you wanted to explore real estate as a pathway?
Yeah, I suppose from that moment to my first deal, I think it was still a year because of after working 3 jobs, I decided I'm just going to work one job. And that's when I got a job in the mines. So and then I'd only work 12-hour days, and I'd have more time after work to sort of figure out things about real estate, educate myself on real estate, and get some sleep as well, which I wasn't getting working 3 jobs. So it was a good win-win for me. So yeah, and then just due to the setup of my job as well at the time, I couldn't get a property until after 12 months of being in the job. So I was just saving more money. And then when I was able to buy properties, I bought about 3 in just over 12 or 18 months or something like that, just from the savings that I had in my bank account. And I suppose after doing that for 18 months, I had enough money to buy about 2 or 3 more properties. And I was sitting at my desk one day, and then I'd been working tirelessly again, was pretty much having no days off because I wanted to make more money. So I stopped having days off and just kept working every day. And I was sitting at my desk on the mine site, and I just thought, even if you buy these 2 or 3 more properties, you've still got to come back to work tomorrow. And that delusional brain came back again and thought, you've got to do something different. Like the method that you're using must not be the best method out there to scale, right? And to go further. So that's what sort of got me to start learning about syndications and US real estate, because I was still investing in Australia at the time.
Now, syndications, that vehicle is not available in Australia. Am I understanding you right? Or it's different? How is it different?
I'm sure that syndications is definitely a thing in Australia, but how frequent it is in the US and how many people are doing it and how well known it is definitely not the same in Australia. Like yeah, the opportunity in the US, and I feel like when I message someone about syndications on LinkedIn or something like that, they've already heard it. They've heard it all before. But if you were to say that to someone in Australia, they'd be like, what is this scam? I've never heard of this before. You know, it'd be completely foreign to them in a way. Like, so yeah, I think it's it's definitely well used in the US, and it's more commonly used in the US. And yeah, that's why I made the shift, because I was looking at syndications, the potential with that. And I was looking at Texas as well, because Texas is my main focus, my main market. And, you know, Texas has 30 million people. Australia has 26 million people. But the thing is that Australia is 10 times larger than Texas in terms of surface area. So Texas is a small state in terms of surface area. In regards to the US, it's the second largest state. I understand that. But in terms of the size, the surface area, it's 10 times smaller than Australia. It has a large population. And on top of that, Texas is the 9th largest GDP in the world. So it has a larger GDP than Australia. So I was looking at that and I thought, wait, all that opportunity in such a dense little area. So to me, I just looked at that and I was like, that's unheard of. That's impossible. That all that, like a whole country in that small little area. So at that point, yeah, it was hard to look by that you can do syndications in this dense area with opportunity. I can't walk by that.
You know what's blowing me away? I know a bunch of people who grew up in Texas and they're very proud of Texas and how big Texas is. And you just described Texas as small and a dense little area. I love this. I love it. I'm not slamming on Texas. I love Texas, especially as a place to invest. It's just interesting that You're gathering a bunch of data. You're gathering data about the population, 26 million versus 30 million, and about the land area. You said that the land area is 6-1, right? Australia versus
10 to
Texas,
1.
10 to 1, 10 to 1.
Australia's 10 times larger. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes. And then the GDP, ninth largest GDP in the world if it were a separate nation. So you gathered a bunch of data and you saw opportunity in mining through the data. There's your mining background right now, mining through all this raw data, mining through all these numbers. You saw the immense opportunity that is in Texas. And I have to agree with you, Texas, the people that I meet in Texas are remarkably entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And
I think
and
everybody in the US is.
what's that?
I think a lot of people in the US, even if it's not related to real estate, but just not everybody, but so many people in the US are doing something outside of their W-2 jobs and focusing on something else and yeah, really taking control of their lives. Like a lot of other countries could take a note from that, right? But I suppose for the government and everybody, all the people wanting the tax money, they definitely prefer people to have a W-2 and have that comfortability about it. But yeah, in the US, I feel there's a lot of events as well that educate people on different avenues to go down, which
Mm-hmm.
is a very rare thing in Australia. And yeah, I think people in the US are more accepting, more open to working together as well. It's
Mm.
it's crazy that you can just essentially message someone with hundreds of millions of dollars of assets under management, and you could potentially work alongside them, right? If you can bring capital to the deal, you can be a part of their deal, and you can learn along the way with someone with such great experience. I only know one person in Australia with about $300 million worth of real estate, and you're not going to get through to him and he's not going to contact you and he's not going to respond to you. So, but it's so frequent in the US that there's so many
Yes,
people with that. So yeah, again, the opportunity, it's just hard to miss.
it is. Yeah, it is absolutely the land of opportunity. I think Texas, and I think by extension, the rest of the U.S., there's a lot of opportunity throughout. So you're focused on Texas. What part of Texas in particular are you focused on?
The Texas Triangle, so
Yes.
Dallas, Houston, yeah, San Antonio, Austin, yeah, the
Yep.
main.
Got it. Got it. All right. Now you are born and raised in Australia, mechanical engineering degree, worked in the mines, mining manganese, iron, and gold, discovered real estate, bought some single family home real estates, did 2 or 3 or 4 deals there, a few deals there, discovered syndication, decided to come to the States. As you and I speak to each other right now, you're not in Texas, you're someplace near Texas. Why don't you tell us about that part of the journey?
Yeah, I'm in South Texas, so I'm in Mexico.
Yes, yes.
Um, that's no offense. That's no offense. But we're very close. Texas and Mexico is so close, right?
Yeah.
They're neighbors. And that's what led me to, because I don't have a visa in the US, and when I raise and can raise money for a deal, I'm able to get a visa for that. And so
Hmm.
essentially that's just the goal. We've got a deal coming up in about a month. And I'll get the opportunity to raise on that. It's still a 506B at the moment. So
Hmm.
change over to 506C within a month or so.
Yes.
And yeah, the goal is to raise for that and then be able to get my visa. And when I was looking at the map, I just opened Google Maps and I thought, well, where can I live that's close to Texas and I can just fly over when I need? Because I can visit pretty much as I like. I just can't
Yes.
live as such in the US until I have a proper visa for it. So yeah, I seen that Mexico was close, and Cancun has an international airport. So
Mm.
I I don't live in Cancun. I live in Playa del Carmen, which is an hour from Cancun, and
Hmm.
yeah, has an international airport, and it's a 2 hour flight to Houston, which is closer to Houston than some places within the US. So
Yeah.
essentially, I'm right there. I'm right there in the thick of it. It's
It's
closer than
closer to
Australia.
Houston than some places in Texas, man. Texas is big.
Yeah, that's it.
So there you go. So you're raising money on a 506B deal right now, and when it converts to 506C, you'll be able to speak publicly about what it is. That's wonderful that I'm tempted to ask about the deal. I'm not going to ask you about the deal because I know we can't talk about that publicly. And when you can, I hope that you and I can talk about that because I'm fascinated to learn how you got involved with that. Can you tell us about how you found the partners that you're working with on the deal?
Yeah, I suppose for a good long time, I used the same method as what I did in engineering to find partners, is what I do to find contractors for my jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, when I had a job, I would always bring a bunch of different contractors to check my job out and be like, yeah, this is the project. Like, I need this, this, and this done. And then all the feedback that they give, I'd be able to tell about, I could be able to decipher who was the better contractor just from the
Mm.
sort of feedback and the interactions that I had with them. So essentially, I did the same thing with looking for partners. I pretty much brought them a deal that I underwrote and said, I have this deal, we should do it together. And then I waited for all of them to give feedback and to see, and I knew it was a bad deal. So I would wait to see who wanted to do the deal with me. And I thought, well, I'll skip this person. And
Yes,
then
yes.
pretty much just got through to the people that tore the deal to shreds and said why it's a no for them. And then got down to my partners, which they said, not a chance, we'll do that deal. So yeah, that's how I found them. But I found them through online as well, and then that method.
So when they said, no way, we won't do that deal, you said, I want to work with you. And you told them
Exactly
why.
right. I
Yeah.
didn't tell them why. I don't think they haven't heard this story, so just between you and me, Ray.
That's fine. When they hear this podcast, then they'll know. So there we
Yeah.
go. That's a remarkable way to do it. It's showing your ability to underwrite, but it's also you're demonstrating your ability to underwrite. At the same time, you're measuring their ability to underwrite. And then beyond that, I think on a level above underwriting, there's judgment. There's the mechanical and the mathematical part of underwriting. Then there's the judgment part that says, huh, is that really the number we want to use for insurance? And I think taxes are going to go up a lot more than what you have here. And what do you mean 99% occupancy? Nobody has 99% occupancy. So I'd imagine those are some of the questions that you went through, or you can correct me. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you probably had a conversation similar to that.
Yeah, exactly right. And when you have numerous people giving feedback and analyzing the same thing, even if I'm not the one, and it happens on all my projects, I might have never run that project before, but I don't need to because I've learned to ask the right questions to be able to know how to get to the outcome of that project. So even though I'm not the best underwriter, and these people, I would say a lot of these operators are better underwriters than me by far. When I bring all these people together, I see all of their viewpoints, and then I
Mm.
can see how many people come back with the same thing as well, and how many people go a little bit above and beyond that same thing. So I just get a bit of a lay of the land of where people put their metrics, even though it's the same thing that they might fix. It's who goes higher with that same metric and for what reason. So
Right, right. That's wonderful. A very experienced syndicator that I know, someone who I look up to, mentioned that if you put 100 skilled underwriters in a room and they're all underwriting the same deal, you're going to get 100 different answers to the underwriting.
yeah, there's more fiction written on Excel than what there is on a Word document, that's for sure, isn't there?
I'm totally going to steal that line, Blake.
It's all yours, right?
I'm totally going to steal that line. Wonderful, wonderful. Man, we're coming towards the end of our time together. This is going quick, and I've loved hearing about your journey. My goodness. And I do want to have you back, perhaps after you've closed this deal, the 506, when it becomes a 506C, when you have that. And I do want to hear about that. As we come to a close, can you tell us what is it that you're reading or what is it that you're doing to improve your skills? Clearly, you're a learner and you're a voracious learner. What steps do you take to improve your skills in real estate or in business or leadership or any of those areas?
Yeah, I think I'm not much of a reader as good as it is, and I know that a lot of people do read, and I don't watch TV either. I always find that I can be educating myself, and I generally find the way that I educate myself is through mentors. So
Mm.
whatever that is linking up with mentors and going through that way. I think I just like the more human approach to it, the more, they know me, I know them sort of thing. And I just don't think I get that through reading a book. They don't know who I am, the person. And I just like working with people at the end of the day. So that's the method that's always worked for me, working with people. And I've just taken that with me into this as well. So yeah, I go into masterminds, or I just approach people and learn off them and their skills.
Masterminds and mentors. Brilliant. Okay. Getting right up close to the source of the info.
Yeah, the closer you can be, the better, right? So yeah, I try to get as close as possible, and learning a few different things at the moment. I suppose having conversations is one thing that I'm learning. Having investor conversations, so improving myself in that regard, and always improving my underwriting as well. So doing those calls weekly, and then learning Spanish is my other one that I'm doing at the moment. So that takes up 2 hours in the morning learning Spanish. So pretty much I don't have time to not be learning. I always try to be learning something. And then if I'm not learning something, I'm not watching TV. I don't choose to watch TV. I don't have Netflix or anything like that. So I'll go to the gym and then could go to the beach. That's the only things I do if I'm not trying to improve. So yeah.
Aprende español con Duolingo.
No, con una aplicación en línea, sí, pero un día a la vez, poco a poco, ¿no?
Oh, that's bien. Está bien. Okay.
Nada mal. No me quejo.
Yo estudio con Duolingo para teléfono. You know what? This is recorded, so my Spanish is very bad. I'm learning.
No, está bien, un día a la vez, ¿no?
Sí. Wow. You know what? We should have started off and done the whole thing in Spanish.
En
So,
español.
no, I'm not at that point yet.
Creo.
One day we'll get there. We'll continue to learn. I think it's important for all of us to learn multiple languages. There's, a lot of value in that. And then finally, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, you could go to my website, www.kingshurstcapital.com. And I have a form there. I'm also on LinkedIn as well, just Blake Alpen, nice and easy.
Wonderful. Blake Alpen, it has been a pleasure having you here on the ROI Clear podcast, and we're looking forward to speaking with you again after you close this next deal that you're working on. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. And looking forward to touching base again soon and seeing the progress.
And thank you for engaging the ROI Clear podcast. At ROI Clear, we buy multifamily apartment properties, we improve them, and we give people a great place to live. At the same time, we give investors an opportunity to enjoy capital preservation, tax advantages, and a solid return on investment. If you'd like to know more, click the link to roiclear.com down below. We look forward to speaking with you.